I think everybody needs an arsenal of really easy dinner party dishes. And just pour the sauce right over it. Oh my God, this is delicious.
You wear so many different hats. You're a cook, caterer, business owner, author, and the like. If you had to give yourself a job title, what would it be?
Cookbook writer. I think that's my primary delight, and everything else comes from that. Certainly not nuclear policy analyst.
You said that each of your books has a backstory, each of your books has a point of view. What's the point of view of your latest book?
Well, the book is called Make It Ahead, and the reason why I wrote it is because I get this question all the time. I mean, can I make Christmas cookies in July, freeze them, and defrost them in December? And I thought, no, you really can't. But there is a way to do it. You can make the dough, freeze it, and then bake it off before you serve it. That is absolutely the most frequent question, can I make it ahead? And I thought, because I have so much experience in the food business at a specialty food store, I actually know how to make things ahead. So I thought, why don't I write that and see if I can solve people's problems?
You've had a really unconventional career trajectory. You started your career in many ways in the White House.
Nuclear energy policy is
in the White House
is a likely career move.
And your life changed very dramatically thanks to a New York Times ad. Describe what motivated you to take on this entrepreneurial endeavor.
Well, what happened was I found when I was working in the White House in nuclear energy policy, thinking life has to be more fun than this. And I saw an ad for business for sale in the New York Times, and it was a specialty food store in a place I'd never been before. And what I used to do when I wasn't working is I would cook. I would always cook on the weekends. I'd cook at night. I just loved to cook, and I really taught myself how to cook. And when I saw this ad for a specialty food store, I thought, oh, maybe I could do this professionally instead of just in the time in between. So I went home, I said to Jeffrey, you know, I really need to do something else. And he gave me such great advice. He said, pick something fun. If it's fun, you'll be really good at it. And I said, funny you should mention it. I saw this ad for a business for sale, and he said, let's go look at it.
You said that when you first started the store, you didn't know what you were doing, but you knew that it was what you wanted to do.
Yeah.
Describe that process, making that very dramatic career jump into this very new experience.
Well, it was totally new for me in every way. I'd never had employees. I'd never been in the food business. I hadn't even been a waiter in a restaurant. I didn't know how to prepare things professionally. I really didn't know. The deal I made the woman who sold me the store is that she would stay with me for a month and teach me what I needed to know, of course thinking that a month would do it. And immediately I was in over my head. And I went home and I said to Jeffrey, I don't know if I'll ever be able to do this. And he said to me, if you can do it in the first month, you'll be bored in the second month. And I thought that really focused me. So he's been my best advisor.
You built this incredibly successful store, catering business and the like, but there was a point in time where you were eager to look at a next chapter in your life, even if you may not have known what that chapter was. How did you know when you were ready to move on?
I have a very low threshold of boredom. After about 18 years, I just thought, I really have to do something else. And I think a lot of people find new stimulation in the business they're in, and I really admire that. I felt like I had made enough chocolate cakes and done enough parties. And in fact, many years ago, I was at a lunch and I was seated between Chuck Williams from Williams-Sonoma and Joel Dean from Dean and DeLuca. And I said to Chuck, when did you know that you'd hit the wall? And he said, 20 years. I just couldn't do it. I couldn't sweep the sidewalk one more time. And I said the same thing to Joel Dean, and he said, 20 years. So I mean, I think a lot of people keep their enthusiasm up past that, but it seems to be the dividing line, 20 years.
You did something a little bit unconventional in that you left the store, you sold the store, and you didn't know what that next chapter would be.
I can honestly say I thought when I left the store that it was probably the end of my professional career. And little did I know, it hadn't even started yet. It was a friend of mine who's actually a therapist said, type A people think that they can figure out what they're going to do next while they're doing something, and they can't. And I thought about it for a while, maybe a year or two. I thought about what's next, and I finally said, okay, I'm going to trust her, and I'm going to try it. And she was exactly right. It was I don't want to sort of sugarcoat this. It was a really hard year because I'd gone from like baking 1,000 baguettes and having all these customers and really a lot going on, to having literally nothing to do for a year.
You've scaled this extraordinary business, extraordinary growth, but you've also been very decided about which opportunities you decide to pursue. Very, very conscious decisions in which areas you expand your business. Describe the process of how you evaluate new opportunities and what's been important to you as you've grown.
Well, I think one of the things that's different about me is I'm not 25, so I've done a lot of things, and I love having a life. I really love it. And I don't want to do anything that changes that. So I make decisions based on what's good for the brand, what customers want, like Make It Ahead is something, but it's something that I'm really interested in. I make decisions, I have in my head sort of a list of words that the brand is about, and I try and stick to that, like the first word is fun. I think, as Oscar Wilde said, work is easy, fun is hard. So if you're doing something that's fun, I think people are just naturally attracted to that. So I tend not to do something that's not fun, which works for me personally also. But I love being hands-on. Couldn't imagine having like 20 restaurants and a TV show and 4 cookbooks. And I love doing things carefully and deliberately, and I'm sure I could have a much bigger business if I was willing to do those things, but I'm just not. It just doesn't make me happy. So I tend to keep it very tight and controlled, and I think most people would be very surprised to find that my entire team is 3 of us, and we meet every morning and we have a great time together.